Hey, welcome back to the Black and Gold Standard Podcast. And today we want to talk about the matchups. Get into the matchups between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Detroit Lions. Talk about the different position matchups, and kind of just take a look at and see who has the upper hand, or at least who I think has the upper hand in certain positions. Again, like I say, I'm really excited about this game because I think it overall is going to be a good game. Um, I will give my predictions at the end of this, but I I think this is going to be an exciting game. And just to kind of preview things, I almost believe this is going to be a track meet. Um, I mean, both defenses probably, they're going to make some plays here and there, but I really believe the outcome of this game is going to be determined by the offenses, and it might even be one of those situations who has the ball last. But I think this may be a high scoring game. I think at this point, both teams are really fighting for their playoff lives, but I think Detroit is really fighting for theirs because they need to win out and just hope for some things to fall their way. Where at least the Steelers do kind of have their playoff hopes in their own hands. Um, you know, for the most part, the Pittsburgh Steelers probably need to win the next two out of three. But like I say, both teams are really playing for their playoff lives, and Detroit is a little bit more in a more desperate situation, I guess you could say. But with that said, let's jump right into it and see who has the upper hands in these matchups. All right, so as you know, both teams are 8-6. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 8-6. They are currently in first place in the AFC North. Detroit is 8-6, and I think they're in third place in the NFC North. So, like I say, both teams are fighting, fighting to try to, you know, get into the playoffs and keep their season going. So, I think both teams are I don't say it in a way, and at least I hope the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at it this way. I know Detroit is. Both teams are pretty desperate. I mean, they need to win, and I just feel like, especially from Detroit standpoint, Dan Campbell, sometimes he does it and it hurts him more than it really helps him. But he's aggressive and he's gonna try all kinds of trick plays. Go forward a lot on fourth down. So I think in this game here, especially he's at home, it's going to be no holds bar. I mean, whatever they have to do, they're going to try to do to get this victory. I feel. All right, so let's go by the numbers. Going by the numbers on the offense, total offense, the Pittsburgh Steelers ranked 27th in the NFL, and the Detroit Lions ranked fourth. So as you can see, this is a high powered offense. And also you can see that Detroit's issues, and they do have a couple of issues on offense, but their issues is defensively. Pittsburgh Steelers, hey, you see what it is. It is what it is. We're in the lower half of every offensive um category. Really don't like that, but at this point, it is what it is, and like that's why I've always said that at this point, this team is only going to go as far as number 8 takes them. Um, Total rush offense, Pittsburgh Steelers are ranked 28th. Detroit is ranked 5th. So Detroit can run the ball. They got a two-headed running back tandem and Montgomery and Gibbs, and they definitely use those guys, and that's what really feeds their passing game because Gibbs is a major part of the passing game. But with Goff, that gives him an opportunity to go play action and look for those big plays because they're very aggressive and they want to get the ball down the field in a hurry and points in a hurry. Total pass offense, the Pittsburgh Steelers are ranked 23rd. Detroit is ranked 3rd. So as you can see, folks, this is a very, very good offensive team. This is a very good offensive team, and they're going to be looking to put points on the board. So let's go to the quarterbacks. Well, it's kind of weird because I still have faith in Rodgers, and Rodgers really plays at a high level. And if I would just feel like if he had the offense that he really wants to run, now he's making it. Because I've always said at this point, I feel like he's hijacked this offense, and it's really his deal. And I think he got comfortable with the players that he wants, the guys that he think he can make plays with, and the guys that he think that he can win with. So with that said, Rodgers is like I say, he's playing at a very high level. I don't really have any issues with him, but I'm just gonna be honest. At this point, just because and not so much that in a way he's probably is a better player at this point. But Goff, he has the system around him, he has the weapons around him. And I just think right now he's in a better place than Rodgers is with his. Goff is in a better place with his offense than Rodgers is in a better place with his offense. So with that said, I'm giving this matchup to Goff. I'm giving this to the Lions. I think right now their quarterback is playing at a pretty high level. He's a pocket guy. So the Steelers definitely needs to get pressure on him because, he's not a guy that's going to really do a lot of things with his legs. He want to get that ball out of his hands quick. But the only problem that the Detroit Lions is going to get the Steelers is not, and I know everybody gets excited about a win. Because at the end of the day, a win is a win. But the one thing I will say, again, the Steelers were able to make Miami one-dimensional. And then, unfortunately, for Miami, the one-dimensional that the Steelers made them was the one dimension of their offense that they can't do, and that was pass the ball. Well, if you try to sell out against the run against Detroit, that's going to be all bad for you because they got 2 stud receivers and they're going to make plays in the passing game. Then obviously, if you try to gang up against the pass, they're going to hit you with the run. So basically, against a team like this, you had to just play a balanced defense and just play good, solid defense. And it ain't really about we're going to gang up and stop the run or we're going to gang up and stop the pass. I just think you got to play a balanced defense and just play good defense. So moving over to the running backs. Again, the Steelers had their 2-headed running back with Gainwell, which I think is really RB1 at this point. But him and Warren, they make up a good combination, a good tandem. But then on the other side, you got Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery. They make up a very good tandem. So, but with theirs, you really got the hammer and the nail, I guess you could say, because Gibbs is going to hit you with everything. He's going to hit you with a little power, speed, catching the ball out the backfield. He's going to give you all that, where Montgomery is the power guy. So they're going to use Montgomery, especially if it's a tight game and right at the end and they want to milk that clock. You're probably going to see a lot of Montgomery because he's going to be more the hammer back. And I think he has over 600 yards rushing. So these guys are very, very productive. So with that said, I'm giving that matchup also to the Detroit Lions. The receivers. Finally, DK Metcalf is coming alive. I think overall, well, first of all, DK is a different receiver than the two guys Detroit have. I mean, DK is a physical. Um, I'm just gonna dominate you more physically, but he can run. He can run, and he's gonna be on that field turf. So I actually look for him to have a very big game. I look for DK to have about 8 catches, well over 100 yards in this game, because I truly believe this game is going to be a track meet. I think at the end of the day, both defenses are really not going to be able to stop each other, and I think this is going to really be one of those games that's going to be on the offense. So with DK, he's going to hold his own. Then after that, it's kind of like some misfits, what he got as his number twos. But these guys, in which I think with Rodgers, uh, he got the guys out there that he's comfortable with. He got guys out there that he has confidence in, that if I do have to go to him, I think he feel like they will produce. And also, they're veterans. So these guys know where to be. I'm quite sure they got better practice habits than some of these younger guys that the Steelers have. But when you go over to the Detroit side, St. Brown is he may be like a top. He's definitely a top 10 receiver. So he's a stud. And then you have Jameson on the other side. That's going to give you your speed element. That's kind of like their little gadget guy. They will give him some end arounds, but also they're going to look, especially if they got that running game going, they will look to go deep with him. So to be honest, as a whole, I'm giving that matchup also to the Detroit Lions. I like their two receivers really compared to the Pittsburgh Steelers one. But I think DK will give them issues, and I expect him to have a very big game. Tight ends. I'm gonna go with the Steelers on this, because just for the fact that they got 3 guys, and you got Big Washington. You already know what he's gonna do. You got Freiermuth, Freiermuth is really an underrated player. I don't know. He's in the lineup. He's out the lineup. He's involved. He's not involved, but I think the Steelers will get him involved in this game. And you got Smith. Now, I think Smith can still catch some balls. And you got Hayward. Hayward does his things that he does. So, like I say, I just think this game is going to be a track meet. And with Detroit is their main guy is out. So with that said, I'm giving that matchup to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Offensive line, the Steelers' offensive line has played much better. Like I say, at the beginning of the year, I was rough on them, and even with Pat Meyer, I still don't believe he's really the answer. But I have to give him credit. I mean, this offensive line has played a little better, well, much better. I won't even say a little better. They've played much better. But I kind of like Detroit's line, even though Detroit is kind of having a little problems with their line, just off some injuries. But I just feel like Detroit can just run the ball better. I mean, it almost seemed like when the Steelers run the ball, we kind of got to get some gadgets going and get the extra linemen in there, where I think Detroit could just line up with their 5 linemen and pound the ball. So with that, I'm going Detroit with the offensive line. So as you can see, on the offensive side, I'm really favoring the Detroit Lions in this. But also, I think the Steelers' offense is can definitely get some things done against this Detroit's defense. So, and like I say, with that said, I still think this is going to be a track meet. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. Just hopefully that the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the right side of that. All right, let's go to the defense. And this is where these teams are struggling. Steelers defense is struggling a little worse than Detroit's, but this is where the problem's at with these teams to me. Pittsburgh total defense, they're ranked 28th in the NFL. Detroit is ranked 21st. So not a big difference, but you see where this is going, that these teams are really having a little issues on defense. Total rush. So against the run, the Pittsburgh Steelers ranked 19th and the Detroit Lions ranked 13th. So Detroit is stopping the run a little bit better than the Steelers are. And it's well documented what the Steelers running defense has been like. Now, the good thing is it seems like they're gonna have Harmon back, and this should be a good motivating game for him. He's back home in Detroit, so I'm quite sure he wants to put on the show. So I think he'll be real motivated to give his best effort in this game. And against the pass, the Steelers are ranked 27th, and Detroit is ranked 24th. This is why I truly believe that this is going to be a track meet. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think you can pass on both of these teams. You can pass on the Steelers defense, and I think with Detroit, you can pass on their defense. Now, I will say I believe the Steelers defense secondary is much better than Detroit's, especially with the injuries Detroit have now. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So let's go right into it. The edges. So the Steelers are not going to be they're going to be without Herbert. They're going to be without T.J. Watt. I don't really expect T.J. Watt to play. So really with the edge, you're going to have Highsmith. Probably Sawyer. Probably Sawyer are going to have to be out there a lot, or they did dabble in with having Peyton Wilson play a little bit of outside. So I don't know if Wilson's going to start out there or they're going to start off with Sawyer, but that's going to be an issue. Detroit, their edges are pretty good. I mean, you got Hutchinson, one of the bright young stars in the league right now. So I think this is going to be an opportunity for Cook. You know, he's been getting a lot of hype, and much deserve it. You know, he deserves it because he's played well. But this is going to be a huge test for him, and this is going to be a major factor here of if he can hold up or not. So with that, I'm giving that to the Pittsburgh Steelers. To the Detroit Lions, that matchup. And like I say, it's a sad thing that, the Steelers got the injuries that they have right now. Defensive tackles, like I said, this is a homecoming for Derek Harmon. If Cam can muster up one more game, well, hopefully more than one more game, but definitely play like he played Monday night, I think the Steelers got the advantage in the defensive tackle position. So I'm giving that to Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers will have an advantage there, and these guys are going to have to come up huge. I mean, these guys are going to have to come up huge because they're going to be challenged in their running game. They're going to definitely be challenged in their running game. In Detroit, I mean, they do hit a lot of outside stuff, but especially when they get Montgomery, they're coming downhill. And it's going to be up to these defensive linemen to, slow these guys down. The linebacker position. Well, like I say, I think Wilson may be playing a lot of outside. He may play some outside. Patrick Queen been playing very well the last couple of games. He got to keep it up because this is going to be a game where it's just going to be man against man, and they just going, he's going to have to stand up against the run. He's going to have to make a lot of tackles and really, really, do some inside blitzes because, like I say, now we got a quarterback that we're going against this week that he's not very mobile, and he's going to basically be in his spot, but he tries to get rid of that ball quick. So hopefully, if they send Queen, and maybe Harrison on some blitzes, inside blitzes, hopefully they can get home. Detroit linebackers, they're okay. I mean, Campbell is he's somewhat kind of like the kid that they just played against in Miami, that Brooks, I think that was his last name. He's a tackling machine. So he at the end of this game, he probably have about 15 tackles. He's a tackling machine. He's gonna find the ball, and that's what he does. But I'm gonna give it to the Steelers. I'm gonna give that check to the Steelers. I kind of like the Steelers line up, or their group of linebackers as a whole better than what Detroit has. Okay, let's move to the corners. The corners, I think Samuel probably starts again. I haven't really heard anything on Pierre yet, but I think this is probably Samuel's position. I think even though Pierre has played well, I think he's better suited to be the third cornerback, and it's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he's gonna play a lot. He's gonna be on the field a lot. But I think they're probably gonna move forward with Samuel. This is gonna be a good one because I'm guessing, do you put Samuel on St. Brown and then just let Porter play Jameson? Because he'll get a lot of targets, but he won't get a whole bunch of targets. I mean, St. Brown's gonna be the guy. I just think maybe Samuel might match up a little better with St. Brown. On Detroit side, they got some injuries. They got, Arnold is out. So I'm giving that matchup to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm giving that matchup to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then when we come over to the safeties with Ramsey and Duggar, I'm liking those guys. Then you still have the I can't think of my man's name. I'm drawing a blank. Peppers. You still have Peppers that he probably gets some snaps. Detroit, they lost a very big part of their defense when Branch went down with Achilles injury. So Detroit secondary is kind of patched up, and that's probably a lot of their issues. And this is another reason why I think DK is going to have a huge game. I mean, I'm looking for DK Metcalf. If any of you fantasy guys out there, I think this is going to be the week to play him. I think he's going to have a monster game. But with that said, I'm giving that matchup to the Steelers. So as you can see, it's almost going to be Detroit's strength against the Steelers' strength, at least in this game. I just think, that's just how this matchup is going to come down. So we'll see. The special teams, I mean, like I say, especially indoors, controlled climate, I'm always going to lean towards the boss. I mean, if this could be, like I say, this could be a game where it comes out to who has the ball last, and a team is driving for a game-winning kick. I got to give it to the boss on that one. And then we go to the coaching. On the defensive side, I kind of, like I say, I think both of these defenses are kind of struggling a little bit. So it's not a huge coaching advantage on that side of the ball. But on the offensive side of the ball, basically Dan Campbell against Arthur Smith, I guess you could say, because Campbell is calling the plays, and Detroit has a nice offense. They have a nice offense. They have a nice offensive rhythm. Like I say, a lot of times I think Campbell is his worst enemy, his own worst enemy, because, I think sometimes he's a little bit too aggressive, but the fact that he is aggressive, and that does get them a lot of extra possessions during the game. So with that said, I'm giving the coaching advantage to the Detroit Lions on this one. So, like I say, my prediction is this is going to be a track meet. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. So, make sure you sit back, get your popcorn and whatever your game time deal is, because I think these teams are going to go up and down the field on each other. Here we go, prediction time. So, like I say, I think both of these teams are pretty desperate, and they know they really need this game. Detroit more desperate than the Steelers are, because the Steelers could actually lose this game and still be in fairly good shape as far as getting to the playoffs. Detroit they have no room to lose this game. So with that said, I think when I look at everything and I look at the matchups, I think the Detroit Lions win this game. I think they pull it off. I think their offense is going to be too much for the Steelers defense. I think like even when I watched the Detroit, when I watched the Monday night game, I rewatched it again today. Miami was running the ball. In that first quarter, they held A-Train to 60-some yards, but he darn near got those yards in the first quarter because, Miami was still in the game. They were, they really didn't have to pass that much. But then when the Steelers offense got hold and caught on fire and started scoring points on them, and then Miami had to really abandon the run game, and then they couldn't produce in the passing game because Tua is done. But I think with Detroit, it's going to be a different story. I think Detroit can run the ball on the Steelers, and I think the difference is going to be they'll be able to pass the ball. And then that will probably make the Steelers bag out of trying to be so dominant against the run. And then they're going to, I just think Detroit is going to have, this is going to really be Dan Campbell against Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin. They're going to have to go back and forth and figure things out, make big time adjustments at halftime. But I think at the end of the day, with Detroit being at home, and like I say, they're almost like a boxed in dog, they know they need this game. And I think Detroit wins this game 34-24. So that's my prediction. But I think it's still going to be a very entertaining game. It could be one of those games where maybe Detroit pulls away at the end. But I think it's going to be a pretty even game up to a certain point, and then I think Detroit maybe pull away. But with that said, that is it. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we will see how this turns out. But until next time, take care, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye-bye.